Welcome, everybody. It's been a week, huh?
That it has.
So I think the primary agenda item is that we're going to get an update, and I think it looks like it's about ready to be shared. I want to, thank everybody for their patience this week. This has been unprecedented on top of unprecedented, COVID and everything and all the delays, and now we've got this. So, pray that everybody's families are safe and that homes have been spared. It sounds like many, many have, and I'm really grateful for that. So, but Scott, I'll let you take it away. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, and welcome everybody. And I really appreciate everybody's time tonight. I think it's really important that we come together, that we show our community that we have this as our highest priority for Silver Falls School District. And I'll take an opportunity here to share with you where we are exactly in this this unprecedented event and sort of what our response has been and what the implications are for that. But before I say anything, what I really want to say is that over the past week, I feel an extra sense of closeness to each of you. And I think it's come from just my daily phone calls with you, Jonathan. My day normally starts around 7 with a phone call to Jonathan. And then usually it's a phone call to Jennifer after that. And then trying to catch up with as many of you as possible. And just to be able to call you and start off by asking you how you're doing, person to person, I think it's just, for me at least, really given me that extra energy to make sure I'm going the extra mile and making sure that you all are okay, and so that for me has been a major benefit. So I just wanted to say thank you to you as a board, and I can't thank you enough for the support that you've given me. When I first came to Silver Falls, it was July 1. We were in the middle of a pandemic, and nobody thought that we weren't going to open with students coming to our buildings. I mean, we were still holding out hope, right? And so as the weeks pressed on, we then morphed our plan into a hybrid model and went to work on that around the clock. And then when we found out at the end of July that we weren't going to go into a hybrid model, it was actually going to go remote because of new metrics, we then went back to the drawing board around the clock and came up with a plan for remote learning and all the things that entailed. And the crux of the whole plan came down to the pre-service week with teachers. It was a monumental effort just to get that organized. And although we didn't have all the data integrated that we needed to, because we had started this plan with such short notice, given the tight timelines, our teachers still did a fantastic job in really giving it a try and really giving us their engagement and focus. And then right at the beginning of the second week of pre-service, this hit, wildfires. And it's been an incredibly traumatic event. It's been devastating for parts of our families and school district, and something we never could have seen. And so when we talk about a crisis on top of a crisis, that has got to be a first in public education in the modern era. So so having said that, I just want you to know that I feel humbled and honored to be here in Silver Falls School District. What I've seen of community members coming together to help their community, in the case of Scotts Mills, to save their community, has been something that I never thought that I would ever see or be a part of. So I just wanted to give a heartfelt thanks for all the individuals who are out there helping the community and volunteering. And we have one of our own, Irv, here with us tonight. And Irv and I chatted last night, and I told Irv that, Irv, you represent all that is good and right in this world. And I can't thank you enough for your service for the past 10 years on the board. And then what you did to fight the fires this past week has been nothing short of remarkable. And I know that I'm probably embarrassing you a little bit, Irv, but it just, I couldn't leave an opportunity not to thank you publicly for that. So thank you so much. We're going to get right into the presentation for tonight. And I want to start out by going over where it is that we are now. So now currently in Monday, and which would have been the first day of school, the first day of instruction for kids. And so if this crisis couldn't have come at a worse time, but it did. So where are we right now? Well, what we think after meeting with principals and talking with others and gathering as much data as we can, that the majority of our staff in Silver Falls is displaced in some way or another. Either they're displaced because of the fire, it's not safe for them to return, it's a health issue for those families who remained in the area, but the air quality is so bad that they're being affected with their health. I know that several of our board members are feeling the same way, or other factors that caused current living situations not to be livable. That's one thing we do know. Also, as of today, what we've found is that many families are getting gaining access to their homes and in their communities slowly. It's not happening quickly. Many families not only were dispersed with their children and loved ones, but also with household pets and livestock. And so that's another huge hardship to try to manage. I spoke to a kindergarten teacher at Silvercrest 2 nights ago, had a wonderful conversation with her, and she's taking care of 15 horses in Salem at the fairgrounds, plus the animals of others who were affected, plus trying to manage her own family and her own affairs. So, I mean, the stories of resilience are just rather extraordinary. And I think it's important that we take all this into account because it really matters. Many of our families still do not have power, which is an enormous issue, especially if you have homes that operate off of a pump, like Jonathan. So it's no electricity, but that also could mean no water, which is a big issue. And some homes for some of our families are completely unlivable. We have a member of our team whose home was so smoke infested that he and his family cannot move back in. And that's just, you know, that's an enormous hardship. And to have all the other worries in the world come in on top of that is almost unimaginable. So, and another huge factor is the AQI, the air quality index. And I think it's easy for us to forget that. That the air in Silverton really is at the hazardous or dangerous level. And so what we need to think about as leaders in the Silver Falls School District is how that affects those whose health we're responsible for. And that'll factor into this presentation a little bit also. And so that's kind of the picture, the scenario of where we are right now. And so what I'd like to move into is what our response is, okay? So we know exactly where we are right now. We've gotten the boogeyman out from underneath the bed. We know what he looks like. And so now how do we deal with that? And the first thing is the communication piece. Now, in this crisis, I want the communication each day coming from me. And so staff in the Silver Falls School District know when they get an email from me that now they can expect that email will have in it significant updates for them. Some of them may be repeats, some of it might be new information, but at least it gives our staff some predictability where they can count on that email from me each day. And that will continue until this particular crisis is over. I just think it's really important that we communicate in an orderly fashion with a certain amount of frequency and and put in a way that's easily understandable. And so that's what I focus on each day. That's my goal, is to make sure that those updates get out because people are expecting them. And a lot of the other things like driving the district every day, all of that is just a way for me to collect data to then add into my updates. But it's really important. I get data when I'm out in the district driving around each day that I couldn't get anywhere else. So, and if that gives our staff a little bit of comfort knowing that their schools are doing okay and that they can see them in pictures, then if that just makes it a tiny bit easier, then it's well worth it. The safety of our staff and the safety of our staff's families is our highest priority. And I think that's the reason why we're here tonight as a board. We want to let our community know how seriously we're taking this and the steps we're taking to address the times we're in. And so what this started with on Friday in terms of the plan is that we suspended the school year indefinitely. And that in this case means for a week, just to get a handle on what's going on, have things begin to stabilize a little bit, if I can use that word, and give families, staff and their families a chance just to start piecing things back together. And just this week is not nearly enough. We know it's going to take a lot longer than that, but at least we can allow our staff to have peace of mind knowing that they don't have to prepare for work at the same time. So we have all facilities are closed this week. We have some essential personnel traveling to buildings. Our IT department is working remotely. Other employee groups may have certain things that they're working on depending on their contracts because we still have business to do. Those of us senior administrators, of course, are working all week and we have a lot of work in front of us. Our teachers will return on Monday, September 21st, and that will be for their first day of pre-service week. We remain 100% committed to making sure that our teachers have an additional week of training available. It's actually given us some time to tailor that a little bit more to our teachers' needs as well. And our teachers will have an extra day. It's just the way that it worked out, but 5 days of preparation is certainly better than just 4. And so we'll have a 5-day week of training and preparation for our teachers to be ready to accept kids in a remote learning environment on Monday, September 28th. And so that's our goal right now. That gives our community something to hold on to as well, that they can expect that kids will start being engaged in instruction on Monday, September 28th. Even though that we're starting on the 28th, I think it's really important to note also that that doesn't necessarily mean that traditional instruction is going to start on Monday. In fact, on the 28th. In fact, best practice is that it not. What we need to do is make sure that kids are okay, that we're building those relationships, getting to know our kids, getting to know our community of kids that are in our instructional groups and our classes, and spending a lot of time building those relationships. It's so important. Our kids have been out of brick and mortar schools for over 6 months. They're already starting a month late into this school year in a remote situation. And so it's really important that our teachers focus on that. And I don't think you'd find a single educator in the Silver Falls School District that doesn't agree with that also. And I think one of the main points for that is the mental health of our children and our families. The adverse effects of the COVID virus and the isolation that that's caused, plus the trauma of these wildfires and having to be displaced and all of that, it's going to be some time before we realize the mental health effects and the toll that that's taken on our school community with our children and our adults. And so the more time we can spend talking to our kids, building relationships with our kids, letting them know that they're coming to school in a safe environment, letting our parents know that we're here to support them as much as we are here to support their kids. If we don't have parents that feel okay, we are not going to have kids that feel okay. And so we need to be on the lookout for that as well. We've been in touch with the WESD for resources that they are connecting us with, and we'll be pushing those out this week. And the access to our buildings by staff, which would be optional for once instruction takes place on the 28th, right now is TBD. It's to be determined. And the reason is we have to make sure that the air quality index is okay to be traveling to schools, and you know, a lot of our buildings are older too, and have you know, even less protection than maybe a modern house. And so we need to take that into account too. So that'll be stay tuned for updates on that. But we know staff are also counting on coming back to a school and working if they so choose. And we want to make sure we honor that, but we also want to make sure everyone's safe. So I went over sort of what the current situation is with the facts, and then I just went over a list of things we're doing, the adult actions that we're putting into place as a response to those facts. And here I just want to touch a little bit on the implications for our work. And number one is, and I was joking with another superintendent, although it's not funny, but what I was saying was there's a pandemic as well. We still have a pandemic. And yeah, we do. And nothing's changed there. We still have metrics that we're watching. We still have guidelines and procedures that need to be followed when staff do access buildings, even without kids in them. Contact tracing, PPE, all of that stuff is still alive and well. And we need to remember that we're operating within that world as well. And that the wildfires piece layered on top of all of this just makes the work more complex. And it's not that it makes the work impossible, it just requires a whole nother level of thoughtfulness, because we need to, again, take into account, you know, the status of our staff and our families of our staff and of our kids and their families. And again, going back to the mental health tolls that have been taken on our community, we need to stay really alert to that, because I don't think we've even started to understand what types of resources are needed to best serve our community. And even with a week of closure, we are still going to have many, many families, not just our own staff, but of our students also, who are going to be adversely affected for some time. And that could be by way of electricity still being shut off. It could be displacement, having homes that are unlivable, and we just need to understand, and also having more and more families who are food insecure, that we really need to take that into account when we're planning, because now our crisis is at a whole different level. And one of the things that we've been working with our principals on, and one of the things I appreciate so much of our principal corps, is that the understanding that there's nothing more important for a leader than the safety of those we're responsible for. The safety and health and emotional well-being of those that we are responsible for is so important, and we need to remember that as well. And we are giving a lot of support here. We are. I think unprecedented times calls for unprecedented supports. But I don't want anybody watching right now to take that in any way that we are lowering our expectations. Quite the contrary. Because one thing we know is that in any organization, when crises hit, that it's actually the high expectations and clear expectations that reduce stress. And we have so much respect for our students and our teachers that we're not going to lower our expectations of them. We respect them too much. So what we are going to do is offer the support necessary to reach those expectations. And if you were watching during my welcome address to starting off the school year, one of the points that I made was, I will never ask staff to do something that I personally, as a superintendent, cannot provide support for. And so it's about keeping those high expectations and making them clear. And then for us as leaders, really taking into account the fact that if we can save time, if we can make work more efficient for our teachers wherever possible, we will certainly do that. And it doesn't mean that we have all the ideas to do that either. We'll just remain open that way. And that it will require a whole different level of creativity to meet our staff's needs. We already know that from COVID. We had to be really creative to meet the needs of our staff, and we're going to have to do that exponentially more now that we have a lot of trauma from this event in our community on top of COVID. So that's just something that we really need to take seriously and focus on. And I think it just all goes back to the high expectations with support and making sure that we let our staff know that we are really trying to focus on understanding everybody's personal situation and being empathetic to that and thoughtful, but not just treating people as if they are in a terrible situation and feeling bad for them, but actually treating each individual as their future self, or the way they ought to be treated. And I just think that it's important to end on that note, that it's the high expectations that we have of each other. And we know that we are here in the Silver Falls School District to serve the community's pride and joy, their children and their families. And in return, that's where we get the intrinsic benefit of working in this field. So I just wanted to end with that and to say to you as a board that I am extremely humbled and honored to work for the Silver Falls School District. And I hope that any of the community members listening right now, that, that I can do my best to earn my keep as long as you'll have me here. Because what I've seen in the past week is something that I never thought I'd find professionally or personally. Finding a community that's as committed as this one, that's as sophisticated as this one, and that's truly dedicated to doing whatever it takes, no matter what pops up. So it's just it's a huge honor for me to serve in this position. And I will go ahead and open it up to questions if you like.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I would open it up for anybody, any of the board members who have thoughts or concerns or questions, or just something you'd like to say, given everything that's been going on this week.
Jonathan, this is Janet. I have a quick question. Scott, is there a central number or central resource or some guidance you would give to families? Maybe they contact their building principal if their circumstances have changed such that on the 28th, their student will be in a fundamentally different situation, and they're concerned that, what would you suggest there?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Janet, because we're learning as we're going too, right? So, so what I would say is that would typically start at the school level, okay. But that's something we need to pay attention to as well. So if we need to have more of a systematic approach as a central office, we can certainly set something up there. But I think it's so hard to tell where we are right now with our 4,000 kids. We've done a lot of work to try to understand where our staff is, and we know we have a lot of staff who have children in our district too. But I would say it would start at the school level.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I can't see the board right now. If you have something you'd like to say, just, I guess, speak up, and that'll maybe be how we handle it.
Well, I'd like to go next if no one else is going to go. I'm really glad that we're having this meeting tonight. Thank you for the rest of the board members being here and for Scott being here. We've certainly been through quite a bit since the last time we've met. So I'm glad to see all of you and hear from you. I don't have many questions at this point, but I do have a quick statement that I'd like to make. I just want to thank you, Scott, for excellent leadership in not only the pandemic crisis, but in this most recent wildfire crisis. Your leadership demonstrates the highest quality of character, compassion, and stellar communication. Maybe that's why I don't have any questions at this point. Your communication and support to not only the board members, but to all staff and faculty has been outstanding. I'm glad you're here in our district and our community to lead us through this difficult time. But I also want to give a very special shout out to two fellow board members, Irv Stadley and Tom Buchholz. They have been, my understanding, have not talked with them directly, but in their communication with us, they have been out helping to fight these fires with other community members. And I just want to thank you so much for your dedication of course, to our community. I know that you guys, were born and raised in this community. But it is really humbling to see such raw dedication to our community. And I just want to thank you so much for that. And I just want to, share with you, and from me to our school district, to our families, to our faculty and staff, to our children, please be safe. We're here for you. We will do whatever we can to support you, Scott, or I will, I'm sure all of us will, to help get through this very difficult time. So thank you, and please be safe.
Thanks, Shelley. Well said. I agree with all of that. Anybody else? Again, just speak up because I can't see you.
I'll just say that the air quality piece is something that I hadn't really thought about too much until today. I was in a conversation with my boss, my principal, and she had to stop our meeting in order to go talk to the head of maintenance because she said you could visibly see smoke in the hallways. And if we're offering our buildings for people to work who don't have internet at home, or they need to be in their classrooms to best deliver the remote instruction, we got to make sure that air quality is safe in terms of obviously COVID, but also now on top of that, the smoke. So I think that having the next week or this week to figure that out still might be a short timetable, but I really appreciate that aspect of the planning that needs to be done.
Great point. I noticed today, this evening, just as I was coming in, that there was actually a little bit of blue in the sky. First I've seen in a while. So my hopes are high, Jennifer, that the overall air quality is going to improve, and hopefully by a week from now, we'll be in a pretty good spot. But you've raised a really good point, because it's been so bad that I'm not sure what good air tastes like right now. Anybody else? If not, I'll say a few words, but go ahead if you have something.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Shelley. That was awful kind of you, and Scott, and all of the rest that have offered support. It's actually humbling to even hear that support, because like I told a man from St. Paul, I said, we're just ordinary people doing the things we're called to do, and that's to do what's right. And in these, these crises, and throughout the year with no crisis, I told him all lives matter. There's no differentiation. So it's just, you just do what's right. And there is incredible people in this world. It was refreshing to see the amount of people that was willing to help when they were able to. We can't all help. So it's just awesome that people recognize that and see that, but it's very humbling.
Thanks, Irv. I sincerely appreciate the work that you did. I mean, in the areas you were working, that's where the fires were burning towards my house. So I can certainly say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and those crews, the civilian crews, were amazing, working in and around them. My boys were on fire crews for 3 or 4 days now in a row. It's been incredible to watch the hard work from just everybody. And a lot of these are still high school kids going to Silver Falls or Silverton High, right? I mean, these are kids out there just, busting their backside just like everybody else, trying to get this to stop, to protect friends and families' homes. And it was truly awe-inspiring to watch. So, but thank you again. Well, I want to say a special thank you also to Scott, who has been in constant communication and has shown exceptional leadership throughout this additional crisis. I'll call it crisis 2.0. It's been just this incredible response, trying to figure out and feel out what the staff, what the families need, where we're at, and how are we going to best proceed. I think the plan presented tonight is thoughtful. I think it is appropriate. And I just want to say thanks. It's been really amazing to work with you in this last week and to have that level of leadership. So I appreciate it. Okay, any other board members have anything you wish to add?
I just wanted to, Scott and I talked earlier, and I had asked him about whether we needed to approve the new calendar for the year. And we had a conversation about why that isn't happening tonight. And I thought I'd give Scott just an opportunity for the sake of transparency to help us understand what that process is. So thank you. If you could do that, Scott.
Janet. Jen and I just spoke about an hour ago, I think, about this topic. And I think it's important to realize where we were last week. Jonathan and Jennifer and I were supposed to meet on Tuesday of last week to set the agenda for tonight. It was just a routine thing on our calendar, and lo and behold, everything changed. And by Wednesday, which is what we committed to in terms of having an agenda finalized and posted, we had board members who had lost power. We had some that were immediately displaced and all of that. And so we managed to get the notification posted on Friday. And I really felt strongly on a personal level that we come together on Monday evening, if nothing else than to summarize where we are, but for our community to see us. It's so important for our community to know that we're okay, and that we're here to do one thing, and that's to serve them. And so because of that, we only had one agenda item, and that was my update. And so we addressed that agenda item tonight. But I think in terms of the calendar changes, which came about in terms of our response for what we're going to do for this latest crisis, is eventually we need to come back to the board taking formal action on giving us the leeway to adjust the calendar. All of us believe, 100% of us right now, there's no way we could have started school today. That would have not only been the wrong decision to make, but it would have been completely inappropriate for our community as well. And so I think this is one of those issues where circumstance and crises kind of butt up against, traditional timelines and all of that. And I think it's important that we talk about that right now and the reasons why that happened. And it's the reason why we decided to leave the action item off the agenda, because we didn't have time to even post the action item on the agenda to begin with. So we just want to make sure we're being transparent. Again, the whole reason for coming back tonight, coming together, is the symbolic nature of showing our community that we're unified and support of one another, and as a school district to right this crisis. And the rest, a lot of times in a crisis, the rest we need to figure out later. They're just details. And so, and all of you know that the direction we were headed in terms of adjusting the school year anyway, because I called each one of you individually and have been in individual contact with you ever since. So again, I appreciate that, Jen. I think it's really important that we explain ourselves in the public setting too.
Yeah, thanks for that. I agree that we didn't necessarily have the need to do that tonight. We just needed to check in, and a lot of us are still juggling. Jonathan being a perfect example, and Irv, I'm sure you are as well. And we just got home, and goats are everywhere. And so, yeah, we will have time to do that. I just didn't want anyone in the community to think that was just going to go along without official board action. So thank you for that explanation. Thank you.
And yeah, it's been a week. The last week was the longest year of my life, right? So it's just sort of been, it was kind of Groundhog's Day every morning. You know, you get up, nope, still no power. Nope, still no sun. Okay. Scott, anything else from you for tonight?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things I try to do in any crisis is really try to look deeply for the silver linings and things. And at least that's just, you know, sort of my own nature, you know, maybe my own spiritual nature is to try to find the good and the balance in every crisis. And I think that, you know, number one is the relationships that have been strengthened through this. I think not only between, at least I'm going to speak for myself, between myself and you all, I just feel it like I'm at a whole nother level of communication with you, and I want you to know how much that means to me. And I think also that the closeness of the community, particularly in those communities where they had such an incredible and extraordinary response to saving the greater community of Silverton and Scotts Mills and our rural areas. It's one of the most extraordinary things I've ever seen in my career. And so, and then there are the other technical silver linings, like having a little bit more time to tweak the professional development schedule next week to try to make it as meaningful for our teachers as possible. That's the reason why we exist as administrators, is to support those who are directly supporting kids. And so, you know, if that's a little bit of positive in this, and that we have a little bit more time to clean up the data integration, which has been a Mount Everest of tasks for our IT team, then, you know, at least we can walk away with some of those as well. So thank you all. I've certainly appreciated all of your support.
I just have one more thing to add. Sorry, I do want to acknowledge Scott's hands-on leadership during this time. I think that that's been really important. So being here in the district and talking to people, I think has been super duper important. And also, I really appreciate the online Zoom or distance meetings with teachers, your Teachers Rocks time, because it's, you know, with the COVID thing, we don't even get to see each other in the hallways, and we can't develop our normal relationships. And so checking in at a social level is important to a lot of people. So I just really wanted to say thank you for your foresight and the time that you take to make those meetings happen.
Well, you're welcome, Jennifer. And I always clarify that Teachers Rock, and the reason why it's Teachers Rock is because all adults in a public education system are teachers. And you don't just have to have a certification to be a teacher. And we're all here for kids. And so it's something that I look forward to. It's the highlight of my week. We have 2 this week, one on Wednesday at 1 o'clock and the other at 8 a.m. on Friday. And all employees are welcome, including our administrators. And it's a really fun time. And it's just, if nothing else, it gives teachers a chance to see familiar faces and maybe put a smile on their face.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Scott. Any other thoughts before we wrap up for tonight?
I just want to say thank you, Scott, for all your leadership. It's just been an incredible time that we're living in. And thank you for being very good and consistent about your communications. And it's very nice to hear and see the rest of the board members too. So I wish you all well, and all we can do is take it day by day.
Sorry. As a reminder, we do have scheduled training on the 28th. I've been remiss for sending some things out, as you might imagine, this week, but that email was going to go out bright and early this week. I think it's probably still going to be on. That's with OSBA, and it's follow-on to the training that is offered as part of the superintendent search. And So it has to do with communication protocols and some other items. So I think that's probably going to still be on. I will be double checking with them, but that's still 2 weeks out. And I'm guessing, at that point, that will still be able to happen. So just a heads up for the rest of the board that that's what's coming up. We may need to make some adjustments. I will be in communication with Scott, of course, as we get closer, and we may need to combine some things that night. We also may need to postpone that training. So those are some things that are on as possibilities, but we're going to play it by ear. So I appreciate your patience on it. And as we get a little bit closer, I think we'll have a better sense of what that meeting is going to look like.
Jonathan, I was wondering if maybe we could pass the mic to Dan Bush for his thoughts. And Dan's been a huge part of what we've been doing the past week. Well, since I've been in Silver Falls, but particularly the past week. So.
Absolutely, we'd love to hear from him.
Sure. Well, thank you, and just echo everybody's comments and the outpouring of support, and thank you for those who rush to the front lines. Echoing some of Irv's statements. We all are called. We all have different talents, and it's just awesome when you get an opportunity to use your talents. And I know that others get to use their talents in different ways. But thank you, Irv, Tom, for taking your talents to save and support people. That's awesome and much appreciated. I guess I'd like to start with thanking our administrative team because Scott and I presented to them a couple of options on Friday morning. I think it was Friday, the days run together, but where we presented a flexible approach to moving into this week, a couple days at a time, or where we landed, which was to just push it out to the 21st to resume pre-service and the 28th for kids. And, Scott and I were both leaning towards the latter, but wanted to present options. I think comparison helps you kind of figure out which is the best. And, the administrative team really overwhelmingly supported what we presented and what we landed out with the 21st and 28th. And not to, say anything negative against other school districts, but I've just noticed how other school districts have continued to have to push things a lot around for air quality concerns and other issues that they're facing. And I think that this really allows our staff to be able to put school aside for a little bit, be able to come back and know that they've got a week and we can get ready for them there. And also want to thank both of our associations for their amazing support during this time and some of the decision making. And we were able to meet with classified leadership today. Those folks are hourly employees. And so when you have interruptions like this, it gets a little tricky contractually. And we were able to really quickly work out some details related to our classified folks. So some can resume working remotely, and some, know there'll probably be some makeup days at the end of the year. So really appreciate the classified folks for, I met with them once last week and once today to be able to work out details, and it's those open lines of communication that really help. So, really all parties on this have been really thoughtful teammates, and it's a great environment to work in when everybody's communicating openly, honestly, and with everybody's to try to have the best intent for everybody. So it's really been great.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Hey, Dan, I wanted to thank you for a great tradition of, and it might, maybe this is just something that is in the Silver Falls School District, but I've never seen, because your kickoff meeting isn't usually recorded and on YouTube, right? But I really loved how new staff were acknowledged. All of those 5-year, 10-year, 15-year benchmarks were acknowledged. You even acknowledged the new employees at my kids' school, Community Roots, which is a charter school. And that, I was just like, wow, that is such an embracing of community. I really, really liked how it wasn't just about your plan and, you know, this is what's ahead. It was about we're a team, and this is about community. And so I really appreciated that aspect of that. And so I just thought I'd tell you, since I had a chance to do it in front of all these people.
Yeah, thank you. That has been a long-standing tradition, so that's not just because of me, but I think it does. The one thing about those events that I think are really important, an idea a previous administrator taught me, is it's relationship before task, and it's always about building relationships first, and you can get to the tasks. And so, yeah, we really wanted to continue with those traditions about honoring the different milestones and things, because those are worth honoring. And so a culture, you know, you can measure a culture by what it chooses to honor, and doing that was really, really important for us. And so, yeah, we made the most of that Zoom, and Scott and I got to do about 30 minutes of Q&A and not knowing what questions were coming. So it was fun.
Okay, any other thoughts from, I guess, from Scott, Dan, or anybody on the board? Okay, well, if there's no other business, I'm going to let everybody get back to their reclaiming their lives from chaos. And I wish you all a wonderful evening and safe preparations for the next. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.